Hey guys, today we are talking about what the contract means when you are a seller and not a buyer. So when you're a seller and you've got a house on the market and you are um, soliciting offers. So here page 1 is all disclosures for the buyers on what they should be doing. Page 2 is where it gets interesting. Make sure on line 2 that they have the proper owner marked or this box checked. So that's really important. We want to make sure that we're selling the right property. And then here's the fun part where it says 400,000 is where they are going to be putting their purchase price. Then they're going to break that down into what would be their earnest deposit, which would be up for claim should they breach the contract, and then how they're going to either be financing or paying cash will be outlined below. The next piece that you kind of want to pay attention to is when it's going to be closing. So most contracts have the close of escrow date as a possession date, which means that's the day that you give keys over. If the buyer is changing that, it'll be noted down here on that possession line. So for each home, these addendums or addenda that we need will change. And so for your particular house, you probably know best on what we would need, whether that would be a well water addendum, an HOA addendum. If it's older than 1978, you need lead-based paint, and we can go over which of those should be included with an offer. So the next page here, this right here is what should stay. So if you're still living in your house, these are the things that the buyer expects to have stay in the house when they make an offer. If there's anything on here that you want to take with you, we need to counter back and make note so that that is removed from the contract. You'll find out if they are asking for your fridge, washer, and dryer here. And then if there's any leased items that are going to be going with or need to be taken out to satisfy your lease, then that will all need to be noted as well. So if the buyer is financing, the offer should include a pre-qual form. That means that the buyer is subject to a loan contingency, which means that they're getting a loan or a mortgage to pay for the house. So if for whatever reason they can't get that loan, it's called an unfulfilled loan contingency, and they would be able to get their earnest money returned back to them. So during the whole transaction, they are going to be required to complete their loan application and go through everything and provide loan status updates. So we'll know about those. A lot of this stuff doesn't really apply to the seller side, but that's the piece that we want to make sure that we're getting to stay on target. They're also going to check which type of financing that they're getting. And then if they're asking you as a seller to contribute to any of those costs, that will all be here. The next piece is whether or not they are getting an appraisal. If it's a cash deal, they may choose to. Finance deals are required to. And that'll be checked here on who's going to be paying for that appraisal. The title and escrow company will be outlined here on number 3. And they'll be the ones providing the title insurance policy and drawing up our settlement statement. The settlement statement is kind of the overview of all of the money that is collected and where that all goes. They'll also be handling your taxes for you so you don't have tax bills chasing you. We've already talked about our disclosure statement, but this is where we are required to give them our disclosure statement within 3 days of picking a contract. So if anything changes to that statement, we've got to update it. We've also got to provide an insurance claims history. If we are not an American citizen, we have to disclose that we are a foreign seller, in which case FIRPTA would apply. Again, if the house was built in 78 or earlier, we have to have a lead-based paint disclosure. And what all of that means, if we are in an unincorporated part of the county, we have to have an affidavit of disclosure. So if anything changes during escrow, we have to notify everybody immediately, condition-wise of the property. The warranties here, technically all the major systems should be in good working order for about 5 months. So you want to make sure and disclose as much as you can to protect yourself in the long run. The inspection period is generally 10 days, and this is when the buyer gets to come in and kind of look all over the house and determine if this is in fact the house that they want. If they shorten that, that will be noted here. And these are all the different types of inspections that they could be getting. It goes all the way down. So then at the end of that, the buyer gets a chance to review any items which they would like to ask repaired, or they can cancel the contract and get their earnest money back. This is where they would be choosing their home warranty plan and who would pay for that. So if the buyer has ordered a home warranty to protect them for that first year, this is where they will note that. And these two boxes are important. They're going to note which one of you guys pays for that home warranty. So we are, as the seller, are going to be granting them the ability to do a walkthrough. And those walkthroughs are going to be for inspections and for the final walkthrough, and then to have anybody come through to make repairs. Or I'm sorry, not to make repairs, but to give estimates and quotes. We do have to keep all of our utilities on while they're doing that. And then any remedies, should anybody be outside of what this contract says, they get a slap on the hand that's called a cure period notice. So that is a 3-day slap on the hand to get back in compliance with the contract. And if either side can't, then the side that has been hurt by the non-performance can then breach the contract. So if the seller, you breach or cure the buyer, they don't get back into compliance, after 3 days, you can breach them and cancel the contract. This is one of only 2 ways that you can cancel this once you've signed it. The buyer, if we, for whatever reason, are not performing, they again can issue a cure. And then 3 days later, if we're not back in compliance, they can choose to breach that contract or just move forward and close regardless of whatever the challenge is. So should there be a challenge, the level of escalation in the real estate world goes from the agent level to the broker level to mediation before it gets all the way to arbitration. And so if you're operating in the real estate world, that's the order of escalation that things go by. If there's any additional terms and conditions, they will be here. These would be things like escalation clauses, if there's any kind of possession weirdness, if there's anything that needs to be pulled out of the contract, if there's any kind of extra disclosures or things to note, like maybe an agent is related to the client, all of that stuff is going to go here. The other piece right here, this risk of loss, this is the only other time a seller can cancel a contract. So if like a big monsoon comes through and a tree falls on the house and the damage exceeds 10% of the purchase price, either one of you guys would be able to cancel that contract. If it's less than 10%, you just have to go ahead, disclose it, and fix it. Time is, of course, of the essence in contracts. We've been talking about a lot of timelines. And the compensation is going to be based on the listing agreement that we have signed already. So there should be nothing referencing commissions or compensation inside of this offer. Then when we're calculating time periods, whatever day one that we're talking about is going to be whatever the next 12:01 a.m. is. So that's going to be how we're counting days. And days are going to be really, really important to stay on track and within compliance for this contract. So here's our typical hold harmless clause for any agents. This is going to be based on your disclosures. This is your decision to sell this house. And so it is not mine. So this last piece here is going to be when this offer expires. In our market at the moment, this is a little bit of a loose thing and can be easily fixed in addendums or counters. But technically, any offer that goes past this is void and not valid anymore. You're going to have my information on the seller side on this one. We're using a templated offer, but this would be the agent information for who's representing the buyer. That box would be checked. And then the seller side, this would be our information with the seller box checked. And then this is where you would either counter back with any changes to the terms that are there or just sign and accept it. So if you have questions, of course, you can call me 602-748-6136, and we will talk to you soon.